Hi everyone, I'm Medhy. I'm the host of the What the FinTech podcast. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by Tomas Skoumal, co-founder and chairman of Dina AI, an AI technology services company based in Singapore. Tomas, how are you today?
I'm fine.
Thomas, it's very exciting to get you because I saw like a lot of just not like news and buzz around your company, but I saw like a lot of advertising, I think, and few persons mentioned the name of your company. So before we go into the detail of your company, I would like to ask a few questions for you as a person. Who are you? What have you done before before you start your company? And can you give us like some information about the person you are?
I'm Tomas. I'm originally Czech, based out of Singapore for last 4 years. And before I founded Dyna with Carton, I was working for 20 plus, almost 30 years in banking. Let's say 75% of that was in risk. And last 25% of those 28 years, I was working in sales in multiple financial institutions, mostly the banks.
So before doing this interview, I was checking your LinkedIn profile and some of the information I could find online, and I saw like you have a very impressive 24 years career in retail banking. So also you were also like global head of loans at Standard Chartered.
Yeah.
What motivated you to leave the corporate world and start and co-found an AI company?
Because it's recorded, I have to be very diplomatic. But the work in Standard Chartered specifically, you mentioned, was my last job. Was super boring. So I hated my work. Okay. So that was easy to make a decision that I have to do something else. So besides, I wanted to do something with AI. Because like on my previous job before Standard Chartered, I was working in home credit, and we did a lot of changes there in trying to use some very basic voice bot at times. We talk here like 2017, 2018. So very basic voice bot on decreasing number of people in collection, replacing the early delinquency stage being called by those voice bot. So I loved that. And then when the voice bot become more and more intelligent, I had a passion to do so. And then when Carton contacted me that we should be doing it, I mean, like this and the terrible job I was going every morning was the decision, like make my decision easier to do so. Yeah.
Okay, totally can understand what you are mentioning here. Can you explain what you are doing for the company? Dina AI is an AI company, right?
Yeah, I mean, like it is a company which is doing, let's say, I would say like two types of AIs. Like even though the AI is like a super buzzword, but we are using generative AI for creating the agents. For like I'm calling it external and internal. I know that the official name would be customer experience and employee experience, but let's say the customer experience, call them external agents, typically like doing the sales, doing the collections, doing the servicing for the retail institution, retail finance, consumer finance companies. And then the internal agents such as like credit memo creating, like replacing the manual work around for the corporate RMs, creating when applying for loan for the credit risk team of corporate. That's have a pretty comprehensive document, but pretty much standardized, but not standardized to do it like a simple macro in Excel, but you have to really do a lot of analysis of the data. You have to kind of put there a lot of language and a lot of analytical work. So that might be the typical example of, say, the employee experience agent, like the internal agent. Yeah.
So it's what you identify as the key gaps when you started the company, right?
Yeah. That's, I mean, when we started the company, like we identified the key gaps mostly on the customer experience, on those external ones, but it is kind of, I would say this brings to the companies much more of the benefits. However, it also requires being them bold. So at the end, it ends up the way that the smaller fintechs and smaller companies are ready to do these external agents, doing the sales, doing the collections, doing the servicing, while the big banks are a bit of worried. So I would say that the big banks on the other side, they are more open for using that employee experience agents, those agents which are kind of doing certain job of the people internally, because obviously if the AI would do something wrong, a little bit wrong, then it is easier for them to accept that mistake in internal processes rather than when talking to the customer.
Yeah.
And I would say it's and it's not my word. I mean, like I've actually learned it from one of our colleagues. She came with that statement saying that many of the companies, they have much more tolerance for human errors, but they have almost zero tolerance for the AI AI errors. So that's kind of comes to the point that these big companies, they definitely want to have AI to make them look modern and make them professional, but they want to have it as an internal agents because they are afraid of implement it in the external agents where they will get much more benefits, but also require some braveness to do so.
Yeah, it's correct. So I'm based in Hong Kong. I work for DBS Bank and speak with
That's,
some of
by
my
the way, my
peers
bank. All my banking is done with DBS.
in Singapore for sure.
Yeah.
And they mentioned to me as well, like they focus mostly on internal improvement and employee experience with Gen AI today, more than customer experience. I think like if we go to a bit of the past, like 2 years ago, it was Air Canada. We used a chatbot, and the chatbot gave a wrong price to a customer who want to travel and the wrong direction for the trip, and that customer was traveling to grave the loss of the grandmother, I think, and so he sued them on at the court in Canada, and he won the case because
I've heard a lot of those stories, and but the point is like that. First of all, 2 years ago, it must have been like very, very basic because like the ChatGPT, the OpenAI came like 2023, so that's pretty much like 2 years ago. So it was very at the very basic stage. So I guess we are way ahead, but so we have much more controls. But I'm not trying to say that the AI agent, external AI agent, will do zero mistakes. They always do mistakes. But true is the human operators do much bigger amount of mistakes.
Yeah.
But for the centuries, we learned as a human beings, we learn that the humans are doing mistakes, and so therefore we are ready to accept them. But for not centuries, but let's say for last few decades, when you have computers, we kind of start to believe that the computers don't make mistakes, or if they make mistake, it's a mistake of the person who did the code. But we are saying artificial intelligence, we want them to be intelligent, but we don't allow it making mistake. But even though the level of the mistakes might be 10 times, 100 times lower, still we would kind of not accept that 100 times lower mistake rate. Then you would be ready to give that benefits to the human beings.
Totally agree with you. I got that sense as well. It's quite interesting to discuss about this because most of the company now are looking at how they can leverage on Gen AI to help them to do like some report analysis, credit analysis, also like on the call center, how to support the like bank agent or insurance agent. We're speaking with the customers, especially if there is a call, to get the sentiment analysis, to get like the text to speech up on their systems, and do also the report after, and like leverage on this technology to make their life a bit easier. But still, the responsibility, the ownership is still on the person, it's not on the robot.
It is an option that you might have something you might call Copilot, that if you don't have that risk to kind of do like to the last stage, to text to speech, to really speak to the customer. So from the entire process, you take away the text to speech, you understand the customer, the agent understands the customer, agent prepare the answer, but lets the human operator to read the answer, or at least to kind of use the points and use them. So basically that improves quality, that improves time between operator being hired and being able to serve the customers. So it decreases the cost of training. It decreases the risk of having the untrained operators servicing the customers. However, it doesn't really brings those full benefits which the customers would get if this full deployment is done.
Quite interesting. I would like to ask you a couple of questions about use case, because we speak about macro view right now and more general. Do you see like some very interesting use case or impactful use cases that are leveraging, for example, AI in the financial services? Right
I mean, I would say in a nutshell, I would not say like interesting or some specific use cases. I would say for us it is pretty much like three type of use cases. One is the sales agent. I would say it's for two reasons. One, it is very easy for the companies to like deploy the sales agent and to kind of get connected with some provider of sales agent, because they are ready to hire external sales agents, human. So deploying the external sales agent AI, it is almost the same API, get connected, easy. Second level is collection, for exactly the same reason, that they are used to deploy the collection agencies. And then here even more, the generative AI agent of collection is having another additional benefit of being super patient. The collection calls can become pretty emotional, and then the human operators tend to become harsh or or kind of unprofessional, which will never happen with the AI agent. So it's like a second type. And the third time, and I would say it's pretty much for the big companies, and it's, let's say, more new, that the companies really want to deploy something. And I believe even last year, when we've been talking like last year, I would say that even the big companies are really thinking over of deploying the agents for sales or collections or for servicing. But they somewhat find out that they are not ready to do so for regulatory, whatever, risk appetite reasons. But they found that internal agents, and they become much more, let's say, appreciated. However, as I said, like the benefits are not so great, but it is a way of getting used to it. It is more like, testing the water. So the typical agent, what we are now kind of dealing with one of the big banks in Dubai, it's developing for them the risk agent, the corporate risk agent. As I was saying a few minutes before, it is like that. They have the RMs who are meeting with the SME customers, and then the RM, before applies for the loan for that SME customer, has to prepare document which they evaluated. It's like 8 hours work for that person. While if you would be with AI agent, which would be having connections to their internal systems, connections to the website of the customer, connections to the internet to be able to do like market research, then you have some procedure, they have some documents, training materials for the RMs how to create the report. You pretty much kind of rebuild it into the agent, like an AI agent, which is using not only the new generative AI, but old-fashioned machine learning to evaluate, score it, doing all the scoring, and then use the scoring outcomes as the prompt to the generative AI, so that can create typically the standardized report what they are requiring in the times of minutes. So here is not really about the time. And when I talk about these first two variants, like the sales and collection, then you would come that you really have to have your LLM, which we do have, for two reasons, and your ACR and your text to speech for two reasons. One is that you kind of minimize the hallucination, because you have like the industry specific LLM, industry trained LLM. And second is the accuracy ratio. Here comes only the accuracy ratio. For the credit analyst agent, you don't really need the time. So if the report is created in 5 minutes or 15 minutes, doesn't make a difference, because it was anyway 8 hours. So you are going from 8 hours to 5-10 minutes. Plus it was 8 hours of the salesperson really deployed and doing it manually. While here now you can say that he will just press the button, like upload all the necessary documents if he has like in a knowledge base, plus all those connections I've been describing, and then he can leave and call the other customer. He's pretty much free, and if it takes 15 minutes, he can come after 15 minutes and he has a report. Of course, as I said, because the companies are not ready to take risk on it, and here I'm okay, and I'm like agreeing with that, then the RM still is responsible to review the document, review it, and do any changes with the log. Again, it should be a log that they would see, like if there is any mistake afterwards, whether the mistake was in a place which was replaced by the human operator or human credit analyst, or if what they disagree is done with the AI, and then we would be kind of developing and updating the document as we would go. But this is, I would say, very new. What I would say typically banks are now opening, exactly as you said at the beginning. They want to do AI. They wanted to do even the sales agent last year. Then they realized they are not ready, but they still want to have an AI. So this is the typical example, like what they are ready to do. So, and what makes sense, it's very helpful. However, it doesn't really bring that decrease of cost like would have the sales agent or the collection and servicing agent. Not talking about like if you would kind of deploy entire communication of the company with the customer to the AI, then comes finally the benefit for the end customer, because then as the AI would have the memory which would memorize every single communication throughout any channel, then technically if you call or deal or text with your bank, you don't have to repeat yourself of the same problem. Like you can today let them know about some problem, and tomorrow you can continue exactly in the same sentence, very in the middle of the sentence where you finished yesterday. You can follow up tomorrow, and the AI would exactly know where you are kind of continuing, which with the human operators is technically not possible.
Well, it's thank you for the great example and explanation here. I can relate on my work because I look at the AI PMO at DBS. Like we have like multiple use cases, and most of the things you have shared is like resonating with me on some of the use cases. For example, when I speak also with my peers and other entrepreneurs here on this podcast, we mentioned about like the benefits. You mentioned about like time savings, like from 8 hours to 5 to 15 minutes for use case. Then come also like FT savings, so full-time employment, cost savings about like the people there. You can also have employee experience. You mentioned it as well, customer experience. So when you discuss with some of the banks or some of the managing director there, do you also need to bring this kind of ROI?
No. Actually, I mean, of course, I do have to, let's say, fit in their expectations of the price. But in general, I don't have to convince them because they know. Obviously, there might be like this discrepancy between how they believe it's expensive the solution is. But even if we are kind of developing something which might be very costly on reasoning, and it kind of the benefit might be small, I would say that there is like one rule, or let's say two rules, which are going and helping us in the future. The labor cost is always more and more expensive, while the cost per computing power, now we can call it tokens, reasoning, whatever we want to use, but it's still computing power, like throughout the history of the computers, is decreasing. So even now, if you deal with the company and you know that the solution for them is, let's say, complicated, comprehensive, let's say the computing power demanding. So even if the ROI would come very, very small as of now, they would know that 2 years, 1 year down the road, the computing power will be half and labor cost will be double. So then the Caesars will keep opening. So then I don't really have the discussions with the customers that they would not understand that it's kind of ROI will be for sure super positive. But we are coming back. The hurdle is always about the risk of how we would do it, how we would deploy it, and how we can allow AI to talk to the customer. And it's not only about the regulator, which they can hide behind, saying regulator doesn't have enough regulations yet, but it's not only that reason. They are personally and internally not ready to deploy it and just try it. And as I say, like one of that reason is that the acceptance of the error of the AI, it's much lower than acceptance of error of the human beings.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because the way you structure your example here, you are really looking at long-term delivery, like just value on the business, and you're not like only on about like flashy pilot, or you're not like looking at the unnecessary, not scaling project, right?
Yeah, because I mean, it is. I mean, I don't want to say it so obviously, or I mean, like everyone knows it, that the generative AI will take over any communication between the institutions and the customer. That will happen. I mean, like I guess if you walk like this forum over here or any other forum, we will all agree. The question might be, will it be like in 5 years? It'll be in 2 years. I might believe it'll be 3 years. Someone might believe it'll be 5 years. Somebody may say 10, but there'll be nobody who would say it will never happen. It will happen. So therefore, like dealing with the banks, it is always like whenever we do whatever AI project we do with them, or let's say the agent project, like would be better. Like whenever we are saying like, fine, let's do certain agent, which is replacing certain human work. Every single company takes it like this is just the first step. If it's the first kind of AI agent, they're saying this is our first step, and we know it will have to do so. So I'm always trying to explain them that like the investment what they might have into the infrastructure, it will kind of then depreciate the cost later on, because they will have like second, third agent, and then you already have infra for that. So I guess like and as I said, like I never ever met customer who would not understand that. I mean, like that's what I say. Like everybody believes the AI agents will take it over. That's like a mutual agreement. I might be proven wrong, and then might be that in 2 years for some reason will not happen. But I guess as of now, there is not a single person who would not believe it will happen. It might be the time difference. So therefore, if the banks or finance talk about the investment, they are for sure taking it like it's a first step, and that will be kind of going to the much wider.
Very good. So you speak about a lot about change management as well with them directly, right?
Yeah.
So what is your like? I understand like part of your approach of the change management infrastructures cost when you speak with traditional bank environments. But do you think this is kind of challenging to bring this to them and discuss with them?
I would say it is and it is not. It is challenging in perspective. As I said, they are not ready to do so now, like for, let's say, other reasons, but doing the change, but reasons more like that they are not ready for the change. However, whenever you would be saying, are they ready to invest? They are. They are. So it's not that they would be not ready to do the change, but they are trying to do the limited and ring fence type of change exactly in the areas where they feel that the risk is limited for kind of that they can over control it at the end of the day, over control it by the operator, the human operator. Yeah. So that's what I would rather say, that the change is, they're mentally not ready for the change, talking about like a big institution. Because if you go to the challenging banks and fintechs, they have to be more ready. So they are ready to do that change much wider spectrum. But the big financial institution, they are ready to do the change. They are ready to invest. As I say, they are ready to give like big investments because they are saying one day we will move to, let's say, full scale, but they are not ready to change in a full scale now. So they are ready to prepare the investment for the full scale. They are ready to prepare infrastructure for the full scale, but they want to do the agent like a very limited AI agent, which they can control preferably for the internal processes, and that they can start learning and being more advanced when they will be moving towards something facing the end customer.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things coming to my mind when you mentioned this. Do you think it's more difficult now to work with this large institution because you touch to infrastructure and that data, and they are not very, they prefer, like some of the institutions and knows they prefer to develop everything themselves in-house?
I would say it is always more difficult to deal with the big institution.
Yeah.
I mean, like one of the reasons I left Standard Chartered was that they've been kind of too slow and too bureaucratical. Yeah. So, and it applies to any change. Like, doesn't really talks about the generative AI. It just simply is about any big mental shift. On the other hand, when they make a decision, then they have money to invest. So then obviously, like you have to work with the big institution, but you have to be ready for a lot of frustration that will take much longer. So I would say, to keep your mental health, you have to work also with the small institutions, and also for the kind of like creating the pipeline of the revenue. But for the longer run, you have to deal with the big banks, because it is where at the end of the day, there where the big shift will happen. Yeah. And then for us, like being in, let's say, 3 main regions, I'm saying, like, for me, 2025 is the year to kind of get the big breakthrough with some reasonably sized, brave organization to do something that will help the kind of that particular region, to help it to move. Because if there is like one reasonable player in that region which kind of moves forward, then others will want to follow. Yeah, that's once. Imagine that, let's say we both kind of have some connection to DBS. So let's use the DBS as an example. Imagine that DBS will introduce some AI agent doing all that sales, collection, and servicing for their customers. Then immediately in the region where DBS is, all others like UOB, HSBC will know they have to follow, because then immediately their services will be better, and their services will be faster, and their services will be cheaper. So then, as of now, again, my personal experience, sorry about talking about DBS, but whenever you would like to even find the DBS number of the DBS call center, it's hidden on their websites because they don't want you to call, because it is expensive. But once you have the AI agent to do the calling, to receive the call, to do the servicing call, then immediately that cost is gone. The capacity limits are gone. So they can proudly show the call center number, or proudly let people call through mobile app. And if they will do it, that will significantly increase the customer experience, and therefore the others have to catch. So I'm saying for 2025, probably in some region, even 2026, it is about to make that breakthrough, that there is some reasonable player. Reasonable player, I mean, from perspective of market share, that some bank or financial institution of market share of not in a single digits, but let's say like a tens percentage points of market share, that they would have reasonable big size of their customers serviced by the AI agent, because that will shift the paradigm.
Okay, very good. You mentioned you're in 3 regions. Which one are they?
I mean, for us, the regions are Southeast Asia. That's where we are home, as we are Singapore based. So Southeast Asia. Then the second region is Middle East and Africa. We are basing it out of Saudi Arabia, now actually moving it to Dubai. And the LATAM based out of Mexico City.
So in the 3 regions, you have like a collaboration with other players there.
Yeah, we are kind of having already some customers. We are having team there, and I have to go and visit. So I'm kind of now having troubles with sleeping, because there is so much of a time zone which you have to pass when you go from one region to another.
Very interesting. So if from the 3 regions, where is moving faster in terms of AI adoptions today?
That's actually very funny, because again, last year I would definitely say Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Now I'm feeling a little bit more more optimistic about the LATAM.
Okay.
But it's very marginal differences, yeah, and it's also influenced by strongness of our team, because obviously, like, I have a feeling where we move forward, it's not only about the market, but it's also about our local team, how good they are in sales, how good they are in explaining our products. So very recently we have like a better progress in LATAM. So I feel that it's like going a little far further.
It's quite interesting, because your company is recent, right? It's like 1 year and a half, less than 2 years. Okay, very good. So you have already like a good expansion there. I would like just to come back to something you mentioned about like agentic AI, and this is being like more than a trend. Is like everything, like everyone is using it. It's true. On YouTube, I'm looking at like a lot of tech YouTubers, and all of them are all about like N8N, all this kind of agentic AI, where you can connect lots different, like agent and create a workflow and process. And it's crazy to see the level of education we can get from there today, and how they can like automate a lot of their daily task, even for themselves, have an entrepreneurs. And I see a lot of solo entrepreneurs or small entrepreneurs doing more and more Gen AI today on their workflow, not only like big bank or FinTech. It's quite interesting. For you, what would be the greatest AI innovation after agentic AI, if you can see one?
Actually, that's a tough one. Yeah, like I would rather say it's not that like the innovation. I would rather say that there will be more like a standardization, that because there'll be like many agents, like your bank will have one, then like you will have another agent serving you like on your telco, then you will have your own agent. So I'd say like the new innovation is like creating the standard like USB-C of an agents, that they can communicate to each other, and that they can kind of clearly solve the problems for you, that you will just simply to your own personal agent get your tasks, like I have to solve this about my insurance, I have to solve this one about my holidays, I have to solve this one about I'm like typical task list, what you are also, at least I'm doing it. I'm expecting that you also put on paper, like, fine, I promised my kids that we will go for skiing, so I have to book the tickets, I have to book the accommodation. So if you kind of put that list and give it to your agent, and then he can talk to the other agents. So I guess this is for me like a next level. So not really the innovation beyond agents, but it's more like that the agents will be then able to communicate to each other in a way of some standardized platform.
Yeah, I saw recently like Crew AI. So you have a manager managing different agents doing one task and challenging them as well to improve the result.
Yeah, I mean, it's already happening, because whenever we are saying that we do servicing agent for the bank, it doesn't mean there is like one servicing agent. There is like one agent who is doing like, let's say, the line increase. Another one is like payments issue. Another one. So it's like very at the bottom, there is like millions of agents, that at the outside, it's all on the same text to speech, on the same voice. It's only for the customer experience. Yeah, because you don't want to feel that there is 50 different people serving you, even though it's AI agent, even though later on you would know that they all have the same memory. But human brain works the way different voice means different person, means he don't have the full information. So therefore, at the end of the day, in a communication, there is like one voice, one tone, because that makes you feel that that's one agent. Therefore, there is full memory of what you said, and nothing was lost. Yeah. So that is already kind of managing the agents. But here it's like within one infrastructure of one company. But there is like another infrastructure of another company, and not talking about your own personal, like you say, like a lot of these YouTubers who create their own agent, doing the emails for them, doing the calendar and bookings. But those talking to those, it is like a next level. Yeah.
Ah, very good. I'm sorry we are running out of time. It was great to have you. I still have many questions for you, but maybe I can ask after this interview. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me, and it was a pleasure to talk to you and to talk to your listeners.
Thank you very much.